Okay, I'm seeing all green lights at the moment. Talk a little bit so I can gauge your audio for the stream.
Hello, hello, hello.
Might turn that up a little bit. Okay, so before we go super crazy into this, I'll start off the stream by just letting everyone know that you have not read this information yet. So you're going to be learning some of this live with me as I go through, okay?
Uh-huh.
So first thing, there's sort of two two massive bits of two different sources of lore dump that have come out yesterday. Okay, we had the Viva card booster packs for Wano, the Onigashima raid, and we have had the SBS for Volume 100 drop. Okay. Now, up on the screen, I've got at the moment our Discord. I've linked a heap of different links in the Discord to different sources of information and different translations, including a few people's Twitter and whatnot, including my own stuff that I've brought up. But essentially, what ended up happening is we got the bounties for King, the Wildfire, all the Topi Ropo, and we got confirmation for Hakis for Apu, Hawkins, and Killer. Plus the SBS stuff, which is interesting. Okay, so first thing to mention, I'll be reading it off based on this own little list I've got, right? But the first thing is Apu's confirmed to have both Observation Haki and Armament Haki, and is confirmed to have the Oto Oto no Mi Devil Fruit. Okay? So I'm assuming that is more like a pun on onomatopoeia. I don't know if the Oto Oto is Japanese for sound or music, so I'm thinking it's more like an onomatopoeia sort of devil fruit, if that makes sense to you. Thoughts on that? Oh, you there? Okay, you've gone quiet for a second. That's all good. Um, okay, so next thing is we've gotten a little bit of an update here on Zoro. So where you've got reconfirmation that he's got armament and observation. Notably, though, that they didn't confirm his. They didn't confirm whether or not he actually does have Conqueror's Haki in this Viva card, which probably doesn't really matter because we at this point in time are as good as having had it confirmed. But yeah, that's just something to point out to you. You know what I mean?
Hello, I'm
Yes,
back.
you are back. Did you hear any of that?
No, my whole computer shut down.
Oh, no good.
It was
Okay,
very random. I just got blue screen out of nowhere.
so breaking it down. Apu has armament and observation haki confirmed, and has the
Mm-hmm.
Oto Oto no Mi Devil Fruit.
The what, sorry?
Oto Oto no Mi Devil Fruit. OTO OTO.
Okay.
So I'm assuming that's
Do we know what that translates to?
no, but based off it, I'm going to assume it's onomatopoeia, considering Apu
Oh.
seems to fight based on saying a noise for a type of damage while hitting an instrument, and it causes damage, if that makes sense.
Right, right.
So, you know, like, he strings a guitar string while saying scratch, it cuts you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, and just a refresher, because I don't know how much of it you missed, but we're getting the bounties for all of the Toby Ropo, right?
Yeah.
And King. So for a comparison, right now, Apu has a 350 mil bounty. Okay.
Yeah.
The next card we have is Zoro's card. Now, it just reconfirms that he's got armament and observation, although it notably doesn't say whether or not he has conquerors. So I'm not going to fight against it. I'm pretty positive that Zoro has conquerors. It's just a matter of they didn't actively note it in his Vivra card.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, he hasn't like mastered it. He just used it once. So I'd say like he's gonna have it. But if you want to be like ultra technical, you could probably argue that he doesn't technically have it now.
yeah. I mean, you could argue the same thing with Usopp. I don't think, from memory, I don't remember if Usopp's Fever card mentioned him having observation haki. It may have, but I don't remember
Yeah.
it actually specifically stating it, even though we've seen him use it, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna blast through this a little bit quick, all right? Because it's gonna spark some freaking interesting conversation. So we have laws updated. Viva card again mentioning he's got armament and observation haki. His bounty's currently sitting at the 500 mil range. Okay. Then we cut to King the Wildfire. Okay. So before I read off the number, just a quick guess off your top of your head. Where do you think King's bounty sits? Marco was 1 bill, 375 mil.
1.46.
1.46. So he's 1 billion, 300 million, and 390 million. So he's only 15 mil above Marco.
Damn.
Now, I don't know about you, but considering Marco is a relatively peaceful pirate, and King is a relatively sadistic person that we've been told his crew's more active and specifically trying to cause harm and violence to people, do you think that makes King look a little bad in a way? Not saying, like, I'll preface this. Anyone with a bounty of over 1 bill looks great to begin with, okay? But being a first commander of the current strongest Yonko and only being 15 mil higher than Marco, someone who's a relatively peaceful person.
I don't know. I think that's really big. I think that puts King like above Marco on the
Totem
on
pole.
that scaling. Like Marco is big enough to be like a Yonko once Whitebeard loses. You know what I mean? Like if Marco won the Grudge War, he would have been considered a Yonko instead of Blackbeard.
Yep.
So I think that like range at like 1.3 is like pretty insanely hard to get up to. Um, it also kind of does seem like King has a bit more of an air of mystery around him than at least Queen and Jack as well.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
So it's even possible that like Queen and Jack have gotten a bit of a boost because they've been like quite active, whereas King doesn't really do much.
so it's interesting here because we get a little bit more information than just that. Okay, so um, apart from King's bounty being 1.39, right? 15 mil. So just for perspective, 15 mil above Marco and only 70 mil above Queen. So
Yeah,
King and Queen are near identical in threat level to the government, essentially.
which is
Um,
cool. I like that. I like that they're not drawing too big of a gap um between Sanji and Zoro. If you get what I mean. Like if it was like a 300 mil difference, that would be pretty crazy.
it would make Sanji look a little worse than necessary. That's definitely true. That being said, the next thing is King's height. So King is 613 centimeters tall. So he's 6 meters 13. Right? Now, I'll cut over to Queen's shorter than King. Very much how Zoro is 1 centimeter taller than Sanji.
Right.
Which is interesting, right? King has a blood type
So
of...
they're practically the same height.
Yeah, they're nearly identical except King's 1 centimeter taller. Just the same that Zoro's 1 centimeter taller than Sanji, which means nothing. But it's just interesting that Oda is specifically trying to draw that parallel between King, Queen, Zoro, Sanji, which is definitely interesting. That being said, as well, I've just gotten a message saying, "Is the chat working? None of someone's messages have come true." Give me 2 seconds. I've just got a bit of stream issue. Give me a moment and I'll be back. 2 seconds.
Like, can you hear me?
Alrighty, can everyone hear me again? Can you hear me, Daniel?
Hello. Yes, I
Hello?
can.
Testing chat. Kuma, would you like to try commenting in the YouTube chat again as well? Sorry. Yeah, so, can't remember where I was. Yep, Daniel, you're working on YouTube, so the chat should be fine. Sorry, I just had something out in the other room using up a bit too much of the internet at the moment, so I had to go shut that down. Alright, so following through, back to King. So King is 47 years old. That's 1 year younger than Ben Beckman, and sort of around that age group of the likes of Akainu and Kizaru and Dragon, just for perspective. Okay. King's favorite food is flying fish sashimi, and his origin is on the Grand Line. Now, this is some information that you might very well like. Okay, Daniel? Oh, there we go. The chat's working now. Good to see you, Kuma Castle, and good to see you, Godexduel de Flores. So, okay. Ready, Daniel? Ready again? Drum roll. 2 years ago, when the Red Hair Pirates stopped Kaido from going to Marineford, King was present as Kaido's right hand. So it wasn't
Say
just...
that again.
2 years ago, when Kaido went to go and infiltrate Marineford, King was with him when he was intercepted and stopped by Shanks.
Ooh.
So it wasn't just Kaido going alone on a drunken stupor. Kaido, his right hand, and essentially a pirate ship was on its way and was intercepted. Now, people like to say that Shanks just, offered him some sake and that was it. I'd like to point out that the Marines' intel was specifically that they have engaged in conflict. This is the only known time.
That is interesting.
This is the only known time, currently, canonly in the story, that before the events of Luffy, we had a Yonko crew higher ups directly engaged with another higher ups Yonko crew. Because as far as we know, Big Mum's been stagnant for the last 40 years. Kaido's been stagnant for the last 20 years, occasionally leaving Wano, and Whitebeard sort of filled out the rest of the territories around those areas. Arguably the only person that's actually made moves in the time since Kaido took over Wano was Shanks 6 years ago, becoming a Yonko, which would mean about 6 years ago Shanks started building his territory by stealing territory off the other already established Yonko. So I'd just like to point out, Kaido was not alone. In the canon of the story, it is stated specifically that they have engaged in a conflict. So just keep that in mind for talking about King. So that means King has arguably had some form of conflict with Ben Beckman, which is interesting because King and Ben Beckman are very similar to me in the sense that King, as of the last chapter we know, is willing to fight using any means to win. Whereas Ben Beckman, as we saw, isn't afraid to throwing a cigarette in someone's eye, using a gun like a mallet. So they're both very similar in the sense that a fight's a fight. If you engage in a fight, you're fighting to win. You know what I mean? And we've gotten...
It's really interesting as well because even if you want to say that Kaido just kind of like went off on a drunken stupor, he's likely not been given anything. Like King would have been the level one. You know how Kid and Killer, oftentimes Kid sort of gets over his own head, and then Killer has to sort of be
level him out.
the logical one. Yeah, I would imagine that would be a very similar relationship with those two. So that would really imply that like either King was like, "Oh no, we can't mess with this. We have to leave," or they like straight up fought and got pushed back.
It was also stated in the Vivre card that when Kaido was an established pirate, King joined Kaido, specifically sought out Kaido because Kaido was known as a really strong individual, and King looked up to that strength.
Yeah, right. That's cool.
So it's
Also, like something to take note of is that it was Kaido, King, and assumedly a bunch of scrubs versus Shanks's entire main crew.
yeah,
So, like, they were outgunned.
and
Even if you want to say Shanks isn't as strong as Kaido, and even if Ben Beckman's stronger than King, they're still outgunned because they had to deal with everyone else on.
also
Because we actually saw all of Shanks's crew rock up to Marineford.
just because it was a conflict doesn't mean it was a serious engagement. I mean, we saw Kaido and Big Mom fight all night, and neither one of them really put any damage on the other. You could argue that the same thing would happen for the other Yonko crews, where they could fight for a prolonged period of time, not being super serious with each other, but still clashing equally. Very
Yeah.
similar to what we saw with the Roger Pirates versus the Whitebeard Pirates back in the Odin flashback. All right, we have a question here. My guess is that King accompanied him not only for muscle backup, but I'd bet that he tried to cancel his captain into not breaking into an all-out battle, given from King's methodical nature. I would say yes, but King honestly seems like the more we get from King, the more I actually think that he's someone that actually would never go against Kaido's wishes and never advise him not to do something. More so, once he's realized Kaido's actually made a decision, he sort of finds out how am I going to enact his envisionment. For example, look at Orochi's execution. Kaido pre-planned to execute Orochi. So what does King do? Instead of King going, maybe we should keep him as a figurehead or anything like that, King literally gets up, doesn't say a word, puts his sword out, and then Kaido kills Orochi with King's sword. You know what I mean? To me, it's a bit more methodical in the sense that they're more similar to Luffy and Zoro, where Zoro might be able to say things that go against it, but for the most part, once Luffy's made up a mind, Zoro's just in the background, just like, how am I going to help you achieve this?
I kind of I kind of see like a middle ground between the two where I was gonna say that I think King is a lot like Zoro, but I don't think Zoro would go along with any dumb thing. I think Zoro would sort of argue against it. I kind of see King as, like I was saying before, like a killer kind of figure, where Kid can kind of get over himself, like get a bit big for himself quite a lot, and then Killer is the one that sits there and like thinks about stuff. And I could kind of see King like you know Kaido just being like, no, you can't get in my way. I want to go there. Whereas King is like, okay, mate, look at them.
Um,
They're an entire crew of powerhouses. It's just us two.
Also, to put it in perspective, King is almost twice the height of Doflamingo.
Mm.
We also get some concept sketches of King um, looking a little different, where he was a little bit more fatter and shorter legged in some concept art. I can send through that to you privately though. But yeah, the next card is Killer's Vivre card. Okay. So
Mm.
Killer is confirmed to be a Smile Fruit user, which we know. Confirmed to have Armament and Observation Haki. His bounty is still only the 200 mil that we saw post time skip, and it's stated that his Scythosonic blades, his Punisher blades, operate by rotating faster than the speed of sound, causing sound projectiles that actually cause internal damage to people, which is what we saw him do against Kaido on the rooftop conflict. So he's spinning his weapons faster than the speed of sound, causing sound-based shockwaves to damage people, which is interesting because he is a decent swordsman, but he also fights using a sword style that most people can't actually defend against, which I think is very interesting.
Yeah.
Next, we have Big Mum's card, but nothing's really specialized there. She's got Armament, Observation, and Conqueror's Haki confirmed. The same thing again with Kaido, although it does double down saying Kaido's epithet is the strongest creature. Kaido of the Beasts, Wisdom King. Okay? His favorite fruit is sake. He was born on the Grand Line, blood type F. He's shorter than Big Mom. Kaido is only 710 centimeters tall, meaning he's only
He's
seven.
reserved to he's He's referred to as Wisdom King.
Yes.
Wasn't that what Luffy was referred to as?
Yes,
Because he
but
was beautiful?
I think there's a few different type of wisdom kings. I think the reason he's referred to that is because of he's a dragon, so it's more of a deity based thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, Kaido's age is also revealed here as 59 years old, meaning at the time of Rocks, he was 19 years old as an apprentice on the Rocks Pirates when they had their inevitable downfall, which is good to have some confirmation there. Meaning Kaido was actually older than Luffy while on the Rocks Pirates. Same age, seemingly, that a lot of other pirates were still sort of apprentices. Kaido is 710 centimeters tall, so 7 meters 10, which is interesting. Now, another thing here is we get Yamato's favorite card. So Yamato is confirmed to be an armament Haki and observation Haki user. Her favorite food is Odin and salmon. Her origin is unknown, so it's not known where she was born. Her blood type is F. She's 2 meters 63 tall. Her age is 28, which is the same age as Momo now that Momo has been aged up. Now, I know a lot of people go back and forth on the whole gender thing. I'm not really going to get into it here, but Yamato's gender is referred to as female in the Vivre card, so I'm just going to say for the sake of the Vivre card, she's a female. Okay? And her birthday is November 3rd. Now we start getting to some confirmations for some things that I'm a bit more excited for, even though I'm a bit pissy. Okay, Daniel? Are you ready? Are you ready for this?
Let's do it.
Hawkins confirmed to have both armament and observation Haki, even though we have not seen him use it so far in the story. So Hawkins' bounty is 320 mil again, so he's 30 mil under Apu. So Apu's 350, Hawkins is 320. It doesn't really go much into detail about Hawkins. I mean, his height's 210 centimeters tall. We pretty much know all this information about him already. It's nothing special. But we get confirmation that he has armament and observation. And we also get confirmation that Eustace, Captain Kidd, has all 3 types of Haki confirmed now. So it's no longer just speculation. The only thing that was confirmed previously was Conqueror's Haki. We now know that Kidd has all 3 types of Haki. We've got a comment here. I'd like to point out that Kaido, Tamago, and Luffy all share the same blood type. Interesting. I didn't know that, but I might have to look into that a little bit more. Daniel, thoughts on Kidd being confirmed to have all 3 types of Haki?
I expected it. I would be a little bit underwhelmed if he didn't have observational armament, and it's already been confirmed that he has Conquerors. It's just whether or not he has it well or
Yeah.
not.
So this actually leads me into a potential speculation. All right. Sometimes the Viva cards can be wrong. We know that sometimes they say things or things are implied in these sorts of supplementary data that is later retconned or changed in the manga, even quite soon after the release of these sort of informations as well. But something I'd like to point out is at this point in time, Hawkins, Apu, Drake, Kidd, and Killer all have armament and observation Haki, including Zoro and Luffy. Okay, so out of the Supernova, the only ones that don't have Haki so far confirmed are Bonnie, Arouge, and Capone. Everyone else has Haki. Now, this might be a little wild to think about, and it might break some people's perspective of power scaling the story, all right? But I just want to point out, right, that we don't necessarily know what's meant by having armament and observation Haki in context of this, all right? Like, do we mean that all these people have the ability to do armament hardening and turn their skin that darker black color? Or is it more so that they have Haki, as in they are more durable? They have general battle sense to a certain perspective. Because we've never seen a lot of these people actually use what we would commonly refer to as Haki in this. And as we go through some of the later Viva cards that we'll get to, I'm just going to put it out there. It is quite possible that Oda would, especially with how Oda's talked about, say, CP9 and that Oda would refer to Zoro, Luffy, and Sanji pre-time skip as having observation haki because they've got heightened awareness for combat and dodging, without it necessarily being them using specific observation haki techniques, if that makes sense to you. I know it might be a bit of a retcon or it might be a bit of a reach, but I just want to point that out that it is possible that the reason we don't see these people use haki in the way we normally see it depicted is because they do have haki, but they don't have necessarily those specific skills. Because you got to remember, the Straw Hats trained for 2 years, and Luffy coming off the 2-year time skip essentially just knew the basics of haki. You know what I mean? So it's pretty wild that people like Hawkins, Apu, I mean, Kid and Killer are more understandable, Law's more understandable, but having a lot of the Supernova having learnt Haki pretty easily, there is room for sort of debate on what's actually being meant with that. Same with CP9. You know what I mean? I know a lot of people have different perspectives on that sort of stuff. Some people go, if it's stated, it's stated, and just take it as is. We've got some comments here. Hawkins did display a brief display of observation haki. When he encountered Disguised Law, he claimed to be able to sense that he was strong. I think it means that those guys are stuck at the base of Armament haki, like the invisible kind that doesn't pass into invisible hardening. But that's just me. I mean, it is possible that that's the case. Again, I think it's just saying someone has observation or saying someone has armament haki. I mean, it's probably easier to explain with observation, but if someone's got general battle sense, like they're able to be like, oh, someone's going to attack me from behind, which we saw, Luffy do multiple times all throughout the pre-time skip. You know what I mean? Like, how many times was Luffy in a fight and just sort of knew that someone was going to punch him from behind, so he turned around and blocked a hit?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, you could even see that in like, it's just almost like a sense that you get where you can just sort of predict someone's movements.
At this point in time, are we saying that observation haki is what we see Luffy doing consistently in the story, and like what we see Fujitora and even what Usopp did, or are we saying that observation haki in this context is just heightened battle sense?
I think the thing to like realize is that it's a soft power system.
Yeah.
So it's not as rigid as like if you have it, it means you can do this, and this. It's like you can have it and you can have some tiny thing. I mean, like Kid could have, as far as we know, full blown black armament haki, but he can only use it on his arms and not on the metal. So we've never seen him use it because there's no point, and it's almost useless on him.
Mm-hmm.
Like even if he had that level of armament haki, it could just be that he can't coat the metal, and so he doesn't really use it.
Oh yeah. Okay, so moving forward, so far we've got Hawkins at 320. We've got Apu at 350, and we've got Kid at 470. Right. So these are our bounty thresholds that we've had so far. Yeah. All have armament and observation haki. So I'm going to start at the lowest Tobiropo's bounty. I know where I'm reading it from, it's a bit near the top, but I can remember the order of lowest to highest. So I'm going to start off. Who do you think is the lowest bountied Tobiropo, and what do you reckon the rough amount is for the lowest bounty Tobiropo, Daniel?
I actually had a look in that group chat and I saw them, I believe.
Yep.
So I'm kind of spoiled. So page 1. I mean, I would guess page 1 no matter what.
Oh yeah. But yeah. So page 1 at 290 million. Not even raking in Annie's lobby level Luffy in terms of notoriety, which
feels like Luffy could beat him like well before time skip, which is kind of sad.
I mean, honestly, are you go over to the general chat on Discord? I've got it up on screen share here because this is something that actually really upset me. Right. So, do you see the wanted poster there for Drake?
Yeah.
So this is the wanted poster we get in the Viva card. That was Drake's pre-time skip bounty, 222 mil. Right?
Right.
That's his post-time skip design on the poster. Everyone was just like, oh, I guess Drake didn't get an upgraded bounty. But if you actually have a look here, this is his bounty here, and it's actually taken directly from chapter 727 when he defeats Caribou, the Lovia. post time skip, post Fishman Island.
Right.
Meaning, in 2 years, Drake got an updated bounty, and they didn't increase his cost, his wanted level. Do you know how absolutely mad that has me, and how pathetic that is seeming?
Yeah.
Like,
In all fairness, it's entirely possible that he didn't do anything that like a standard
Oh.
Toby Roper member could do. You know what I mean? Him going from being a captain to being a Toby Ropo, isn't that much of a difference. Like from being like a supernova to being a Toby Ropo isn't that much of a difference. It's only if he starts doing things that are like really exceptional as a Toby Ropo, and in that case, he's like held to the Toby Ropo standard. So he's only going to get an increase if he does something that's like, it's like, oh, really? A Toby Roper did that? He's going to get an increase.
I would agree, except there's two factors that go into this for me. Number one, he's a secret agent, right? Not giving him any form of updated bounty to me just says to me, right, that they gave him this bounty initially when he was leaving the Marines and that to try and make him have a foothold at getting into a crew, and then they just were like, he's not really a threat. Don't bother raising it. To me, that is the dumbest thing to do for your spy. You want your spy out there looking like he's like one of the worst criminals out there to really get trusted. You know what I mean? This is just like not super smart on Drake's part, and like whoever's Drake's handler. You know what I mean?
While that's true, I'd imagine the agency that is in charge of divvying out bounties isn't like in the pocket of,
True,
or like isn't knowledgeable that he is a Marine.
That being said as well, right? This pet, and if you actually zoom in on that 727, you can actually see like this is the exact moment that wanted poster was taken. You can see the same background stuff as well. It's just been redrawn slightly. Right?
Yeah, right.
Which meant, because Caribou's 210 mil bounty, which meant Drake took out someone with one shot that had 12 mil less than him and still didn't get an increase of any capacity. You know what I mean? It's just like, to me, it's just like it's making Drake look bad. And this is my biggest rant that I'm probably going to have during this whole section. But maybe Oda was just like, he doesn't need a new bounty because he's revealed to be sword or whatever. I just think it's just the stupidest thing to do. Something to mention, though, while I am talking about Drake, is so when Corazon died in the lore flashback on Sparrow Island and Drake was taken in by the Marines, Sengoku's a person that personally raised Drake. So he essentially fulfilled Corazon's childhoodness to Sengoku, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, okay.
So that's interesting to see that, Sengoku, the world's worst father, had two adoptive kids, raised them both up, sent them out to be undercover, and is essentially going to let them die. Because seemingly at this point in time, Drake's screwed on his own, you know what I mean? Drake has also shown questionable wisdom, as when he tried to coerce Hawkins to turn against Kaido, knowing the magician's cunning intellect, Drake kind of revealed his disloyalty to the Beast Pirates. Yes, he did. Not the world's best secret agent, I'm not going to lie. He's running around, right? I'm assuming back at Sword Headquarters, he's running around getting Johnny English his coffee. You know what I mean? If you get that joke, you get that joke.
It's really interesting to me because like Drake has like done pretty much nothing significant in this war.
Yep.
Like all he's really done is go after Apu, and I always try to think of like, why did Oda write this character into this arc and make him this way? Like, he planted him in ages ago as being this Marine spy who joined Kaido's crew, and like, I figured he'd have some kind of significant role to play, but seemingly he's just done nothing but like try to survive and then fight Apu, and it's like, really, like, if you wanted someone to fight Apu, you could have just not put Apu in there or had him get one shot by Zoro or something. Doesn't seem like Drake is playing any significant role here.
I wanted Drake to have an updated bounty, whether it was from Viva Card or whatever, right? I wanted to see his upgraded bounty. I wanted to see him be around the middle of the Topiroko, because after this, when he goes back to the Marines, I wanted to see him get promoted to Vice Admiral so we could actually have a gauge of where the Vice Admiral sat to the Yonko crew. I thought that's the route Oda was going. Clearly not. That being said, Drake, as a rear admiral, had a bounty of 222 million and was strong enough to immediately be absorbed into the Topi rowboat. So take that however you will. That being said, we go on to the next person here, who's Ulti. Ulti's a lady, thank gosh. Her birthday's April 1st, which, okay, she's an April Fool's joke. She's 22 years old, where page 1 was only 20 years old. Her blood type is XF, which I'm pretty sure is the rare type that Sanji was, from memory. She was born on the Grand Line, so it was page 1. Her favourite food is twisted potatoes, and she has a bounty of 400 million, which is respectable. Not as high as I thought it was going to be, but it's still respectable. You know what I mean? That being said, there's also a bit of supplementary information that Kaido personally knew Page 1 and Ulti's father. When their father died, Kaido took them in. Ulti realized that it was a situation of the strong live and the weak die, so she stole 2 devil fruits that Kaido had in his possession, ate one herself and gave one to her little brother, fast-tracking becoming high-ranking officers of the Beast Pirates. So
that's a cool backstory.
I think that is a great backstory. I reckon that makes Ulti look so much better, and it's also very interesting, right? That Kaido knew their father, because they potentially have a tie in there to be maybe the descendant of someone from Rocks in some capacity.
Yeah, possibly.
Interesting.
I think it's really cool because it gives more credence to the idea that all of the Flying Six fighters happen to be ancient zones. Like obviously Kaido would have just had he would have just gone around hunting down every ancient zone he could find, and he had them sort of like stored away. And it gives a bit of credence to why so many of them just happen to be ancient zones, because it seems kind of ridiculous how like every single one of them is. So yeah, it's cool in that sense.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's definitely cool. It definitely gives a bit more depth to to page 1 and Ulti. And it also, interestingly enough, so page 1's 20, Ulti's 22, and Jack's is 28. Meaning it's only recently that Kaido's crew has sort of gotten some of their heaviest hitters in the last couple of years, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and we don't know when these events happened, when these people joined, but, 2 years ago to 10 years ago, Kaido's crew just might not have been a heavy hitter. Like, nowhere near to what it is now, at least, if that makes sense. Okay, so moving up, we have the next lowest after Black Maria. I've just lost it for a second. Sorry, next lowest after Ulti, we have... Oh, okay. No, I can't find Sasaki. Sasaki's bounty was 472 million. He's confirmed... All the Tobirobo are confirmed to have armament and observation Haki as well. Which, again, considering we only saw Ulti use armament observation and Who's Who use armament and observation, and Who's... Sorry. We saw Ulti and Who's Who use armament and observation. We saw page 1 use observation but no armament, and we didn't see any Haki on screen from any other Tobirobo. So I don't know if that discredits them having fought to their best ability in their fights, whether or not they were even capable of using Haki to defend themselves in their fights, or whether or not you are starting to think that maybe Haki being confirmed in the Viva cards isn't the same as what we necessarily see in proper Haki use. I don't know. Depends on what you want to say. So yeah, Sasaki is 472 mil. The next person up from that is Black Maria with 480 mil as the second highest wanted Tobirobo, which I thought was really interesting because I did not see Black Maria being that high at all. I don't know. Where do you think Black Maria was going to sit in this situation?
I did not think she was going to be that high. No, I think it might just be because she's always sort of like next to Kaido. She gets like a bit of a... People think that she's more important than she is. I don't know. She
Um,
seems like a bit of a boss in her own little area. Like she kind of runs that little section of the palace.
yeah.
But yeah.
Well, interestingly enough, Black Maria is the only one of the Topiroko that's actually born in Wano. So she's born and bred in Wano. So she has a higher bounty than almost every one of the Topiroko, having been born in Wano and
It is interesting, yeah, Kuma.
being essentially
Because like
stagnant.
he must have left and done something significant to get a name out there, right?
Mm-hmm. While I'm talking about Black Maria here, though, I don't know if you are all aware of the SBS. For Volume 100, there is a little bit of information on Black Maria in the SBS, which I will probably bring up here. Her form that we saw in her fight against Robin, where she had the spider underneath her, that
Mhm.
is her hybrid form, but not her hybrid form. Black Maria is confirmed to be like Chopper and has found a way to manipulate her zone's transformation. Her regular zone transformation is actually supposed to look like Onigumo's, where she grows a spider back off her, starts growing spider eyes, and has the 6 arms. Whereas her spider form that we see her in throughout Wano is genetically manipulated to specifically be more attractive for Black Maria's personal preferences.
Oh.
So it's interesting. Again, bit weird to see Black Maria at that 480 mark, especially since not trying to discredit it, but out of the Topiroko, she sort of seemed to have it was a toss up between her and Page One for having displayed the weakest combat ability on screen.
Yeah.
Which is interesting to say the least. Her favorite food is Mitarashi Dango, blood type S. Her height is she's almost as tall as Big Mum at 8 meters 20. So she's taller than Kaido by 1 meter 10. She's also 29 years old, so she's only 1 year older than Yamato, which is interesting because again, most of Kaido's beast pirates are in the 20s, which is it says a lot. Okay. Next up, we have Who's Who. Who's Who is a male born March 15th. He's 38 years young, blood type F, born from the North Blue, favorite food, Kaji no Paella, and he has a bounty of 546 million berries. I honestly thought that this bounty was a little low compared to anyone that was in the Discord knows that I was expecting the Beast Pirates to be around 100 mil more on average than the Big Mum Pirates, but apparently it sort of went almost the other way in some aspects. But yeah, so Who's bounty's 546. What's your take on that being Who's bounty, Daniel?
Um. Yeah. He didn't. The problem was that he was against
Jinbei.
Jinbei, so his showing was really bad compared to how strong he actually probably is. Just because Jinbei pretty much just stomped him. So it's hard to tell. Like I would assume that he's quite strong because he seems to be like confident even against the All Stars. Even if that's like misguided confidence. So I would say like I would probably expect it to be a little bit higher, but at the same time, the commanders are supposed to have a much bigger sort of reputation. So I wouldn't have put him like 800,000 or anything like that. I would be surprised. I would have been like shocked if it was more than 600.
Now, this actually brings up a bit of interesting information, though. Okay, because first things first, this is a former member of CP9 that's compared specifically to Rob Lucci and Rob Lucci's level of potential, right? So it's interesting enough that the Topiropo range here starts at Luffy having beaten Rob Lucci pre-time skip in the bounty range, moving up to what could be arguably stated to be a post-time skip Rob Lucci combat range, if that makes sense to anyone at least. being 546 mil, so there is a reasonably high, like, he is well off in the wanted category, and it is really hard to sort of gauge that. Also, being someone that's compared specifically to Rob Lucci, you got to remember he's 8 years older than Rob Lucci, so you could take it as he's a little bit stronger than Rob Lucci because he's got the same potential, but he's a bit older, so he's been at it for longer. Or you could view it in the other way, where he's older than Lucci and had the same potential, meaning now that Lucci's gone out into the world and training more, he actually has a higher potential than Who's Who, if that makes sense. Who's Who's nickname is also what was it? It was I can't remember what it was now. He has a nickname essentially amongst the Topi Ropo as being referred to as someone that talks too much and lets too much information loose. Sasaki also had the title of down drunken or something like that, implying that he's constantly drunk. Oh, okay, we've got some chat here. Oh, and the stream is starting to lag up a bit. Hang on. Trying to resurrect the stream health a bit here. Go through some of the chat. Do you think Chopper will bring Black Maria's drug into his Rumble Ball, which will negate the drawbacks out of it? Probably not, no. That'd be cool, but I kind of want Chopper to invert his own stuff instead of copying other people. Will inventing need some basis for some to create a panacea drug? True. We all expect all the Straw Hats except Chopper maybe to have at least 350 mil berry after the Topiropo's bounty. I mean, it's going to be hard to redraw up what the Straw Hats bounty is going to be post the Onigashima incident, because in all honesty, it's going to be hard to gauge whether or not this is their final bounties for the series or not. Realistically speaking. I was thinking Who's Who would be 700 at least, given his history with the world government, and that he's potentially considered on par with Rob Lucci when they both started out. Who's Who's Devil Fruit is also a superior variety. True, but the weird thing is as well is all the Topiropo are less wanted than Snack and Perisparrow. Does that not feel really weird to say?
I could understand it. Perisparrow is always I've always found quite weird. He's always had like just a weirdly high bounty.
He's also a lot older, so
Snack,
he's been active longer.
yeah, but Snack I could see because he was like a quote unquote fourth division commander, which was essentially like a tier above a Toby Ropo.
I mean,
so I could see him having a slightly higher bounty.
Are they? Because wouldn't Who's Who have to fulfill the role of the fourth commander in this situation?
Yes, but that's what I mean is that like Big Mom had like a top 4, whereas
Kaido had a top
Kaido
3
only
and then
has
a
a
gap.
top 3.
Yeah.
Then a gap, yeah.
Yeah, that's fair enough. That being said as well, you got to remember, I can't remember how old he is, but I think Snack was only 26 years old as well. So he was relatively young. He might have been 24 years old. He's relatively young and highly wanted, which is impressive that we're starting to see some younger people. Like, realistically, we're seeing some of the super rookies that have been more, like, absorbed into the Yonko crews to boost their crews, which is definitely good to see. We also...
The way that I think bounties could work is like obviously the Yonko themselves have to have a really high bounty because like if you think about it in the sense of like what's the value of taking that person out of the equation? So like if you take out Dragon from the Revolutionary Army, they've lost their leader. They're just like fall apart completely.
Yeah.
So Dragon is an insanely important target, same way as the Tobirippo. And then as we've seen with Marco, if you lose Whitebeard, if you lose the Yonko, it's possible that one of the commanders can take over and sort of lead everybody and sort of keep the army going, but they do lose a lot of strength. Whereas I think like if you took out everybody except for the Tobiropo, they just fall apart. Like
Yeah.
there's no more beast pirates. And so I think like the commanders are on that like leadership level where if everybody got wiped out and there was only one more commander left, they would still be able to like hold on to most of their followers and keep the beast pirates alive. And so I think like that leadership tier of the division commanders, as we'd call them, are essentially like a tier above in bounty
Yeah.
wise, in importance than everybody else.
I don't know. I know you've been really busy this week. I did a massive breakdown in the Discord of this actually because having reread the series, I've gotten up to Savity Archipelago at this point in time, and obviously, I'm reading new chapters as they come out while also rereading the entirety of the series. So I'm not getting caught up in like just the moment. I'm also still understanding the relative strength of new people as I'm reading, right? And I sort of came to the conclusion that what is the difference between, say, the Topiropo minus Drake, right? Get Drake out of that equation. What's the difference between the Topiropo and a Buster Call? 5 Vice Admirals, you've got 5 Topiropo, all right, all of varied strength levels. The Beast Pirates had 20,000 people in total, but for the sake of like going out and pirating and that, how many people would you say that the Beast Pirates would take out, like the Topiropo would take out on ships and that if they were to go, say Kaido ordered the Topiropo to go wipe out an island?
I mean, honestly, like it seems like the power difference is ridiculous. So, I honestly think like a standard island, like
Yep.
Where Robin came from, one vice admiral could technically wipe out the
Yes,
whole
yes, I
island.
agree.
The only thing is that everybody would run away.
Well,
So I think the point of it is it's 5 vice admirals because that's so much force that nobody
yes.
would even be able to escape.
See and I'm comparing the effects there. Essentially, what I'm bringing it down to is, I would say, considering Kaido's whole crew is 20,000 pirates, right? A Buster Call consists of 12,000 trained Marines, 5 Vice Admirals, and 200 individuals between Ison and Captain level with assorted Devil Fruits.
Right.
I missed most of that in recollection of Ennie's Lobby. Actually, going back and watching Ennie's Lobby, the Straw Hats aren't actually really, outside of the fodder, they're not beating any of the Buster Call at the end. They're actually sort of defending while retreating, and they get cornered to the point where they have to jump off and are then saved by the Mary. They are overwhelmingly being defeated in that situation. To me, right, my headcanon now, having reread that whole situation while also mirroring it sort of in this arc, is essentially if you look at the Topiropo and their crews and the people that they command, it's really no different to a Buster Call. You know what I mean? The Marines have enough to do multiple Buster Calls, but then they don't really have anyone in between that power gap of Topiropo level to Yonko level. So say the Admirals are Yonko level, so the Admirals equal out the Yonko roughly, and then the Vice Admirals equal out the Topiropo level people. They've got no one to deal with that first, second, and third commander range.
Yeah.
But
They don't have commander range.
yeah,
people,
which to me is why they actually specifically. Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now. The stream though is buffering.
Yes.
Okay. Looks
Chat.
like it's back.
Chat, can you hear me in the stream? The internet today is deciding to fight me ever so terribly. I don't know. I don't know what it is that's causing issue. Give me a second. I'll try and deal with it again. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Seems like we're back. There's just a delay is the problem.
Alright, chat, am I live or not? It still says I'm experiencing a little bit of difficulty. It doesn't seem like it's anything to do with me specifically. I think it's just the internet in the area is starting to go down at the moment. Daniel, can you hear me?
I can hear you. You're
Yep.
perfectly fine to me.
So it looks like we're still getting signal at the moment, but it's not super smooth, which is a bit unfortunate, but there's nothing I can really do about that. If it gets too
You have
bad,
NBN?
yeah.
Okay, damn.
I was gonna say when you move into your new place, be all better.
Nah, I think it's more just there's been some works getting done in the area. Alright, so what do we have to see here? I like to see the Straw Hats get Haki as well, but I think Oda is keeping it back so they just don't get too OP too fast. Like Robin Fruit with Haki would be easily deal breaker, not gonna lie. I mean, it's not that OP if it's the Straw Hats themselves and not top tier Haki users teach. Plus, Frankie compensates for not having a Devil Fruit with his technology. I mean, okay, another thing I'll bring up is having reread the story, right? Haki makes a big difference, but it doesn't make as big of a difference as it seems in a lot of situations. The reason it seems like it made such a big deal is because you had the Straw Hats equaling people with Haki while they had no Haki. Then they got Haki. Like, the Straw Hats coming for like at the end of Eni's lobby, if you had Luffy sort of coming in at the very bottom of the Vice Admiral range in terms of strength, right? And say Zoro and Sanji coming in at that rear admiral range or around that captain rear admiral range, right? And then gave them all Haki, like they did in the time skip. They essentially all came back having jumped past the bottom levels of the Topiropo to already above all the Topiropo in terms of strength, and just needing to test their battle strength against commander level people to get past the commanders, essentially. Like, realistically. I mean, the biggest person that was having that sort of struggle was Sanji, because Sanji could deal the damage, but he couldn't take the same levels of damage. I mean, in Eni's lobby, Sanji's basic kicks without Diablo Jambe were strong enough to almost completely knock out Balluno, even while he was using Haki. Which, interestingly enough as well, in Eni's lobby, when the Straw Hats beat the not the Topi Robo, when they beat CP9, none of the CP9 were using Iron Body when they got defeated, except for the one that Chopper beat. And that was in Monster Point when he crushed him completely. So I'd like to put into perspective that the CP9 went down while not actually using the strongest guards. If you're sort of headcanon of them having been essentially retconned or confirmed to have Haki as being a bit of a deal breaker there. So just keep that into perspective, okay?
I also want to point out Monster Chopper one-shots a CP9 agent and was actually doing pretty well against Queen.
Yeah.
So, he's pretty impressive, that man.
I mean,
that little reindeer.
Chopper's as weak as he lets himself be. It's more based on his personality. Okay, so moving on, we have Jack. Jack's got a Billion-Berry bounty. His favorite food's cactus steak. Born on the Grand Line. He's 8 meters 30, so he's 10 centimeters taller than Black Maria. He's 28 years old, so he's a year younger than Black Maria. His birthday is September 8, and he's male, and he's confirmed, like all of the top beast pirates, to have Armament and Observation Haki, even though we haven't really seen him use his Armament or Observation so far in the story. And yeah, that pretty much does it for the Vivra cards information, except for we get some supplementary information here. The biggest one is probably we get Hachan of the numbers. So how tall do you think Hachan is, Daniel?
I've got no reference anymore.
So the people were. I'll save this picture and I'm gonna put it in the Discord. So go to the Discord if you don't know where this information is already. But to put it in perspective, right? That little red speck down the bottom of the page is Luffy compared to Hachan. Hachan's
People with a red spec.
exactly. Can you?
Oh, I see now.
Yeah, that little
Yeah.
tiny bit there is Luffy. Hachan is 668, 6,680 centimeters tall, coming in sort of 20 centimeters under oars in height. I didn't like. I know that they said that the numbers were as tall as ancient giants, not regular giants. But I always thought that that was a little bit of an you know, hyping tool because they weren't really as they didn't really look as big. But holy shit, Hachan is that big.
66 meters.
Yes, these guys are 66 meters in height. Not just that, right? For anyone that was like, oh, they might be modified humans that got turned into giant level people, Hachan is 188 years old. He was born on Punk Hazard. Is that not weird? You can't even attribute him to Vegapunk, realistically, because he's 188 years old. So you have to assume maybe he's a giant that they performed gigantification on in some capacity.
How long ago was it that the Void
Started
Sentinel was in
900,
that?
so it went from 900 to 800 years ago.
It's crazy.
Oh, the stream looks like it's cut out again.
Oh.
Oh, we're back. Internet's doing all sorts of crazy things today, so you're gonna have to bear with me, people. I'm sorry if it screws up too much, but it is what it is. Okay. Okay, so the rest of the information is essentially speed, which she's just under 3 meters tall, 24 years young. Just have a touch too many things going on at once. Let's see if this helps a little bit.